afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of Laker TV.
We know it's been hard getting back into the swing of things after spring break, but it seems that our FFA chapter had no problem at all.
Our FFA chapter competed this past Wednesday in the annual FFA Field Day held by Murray State, where they competed with over 1,600 students from 50 chapters in 4 states. The team walked away with the overall champion award, which makes this their 10th consecutive year to do so. This ends the school year with over 30 students qualified for state competition and more regional champions than any other school in the district. Congratulations to the FFA chapter, as it seems that they have had a very successful year thus far, and we hope it continues.
You may remember the art students that we recognized before spring break. This digital media entry, created by Ashley Jones, went on to win an honorable mention at the Kentucky Art Educators Association state competition. This is the first time that the student from CCHS has placed at the state competition in 7 years. Congratulations, Ashley.
You know, if you visit a first block classroom, you may have thought you walked into an episode of The Walking Dead. It may be convincing, but not totally true. Teenagers have always had a hard time getting quality sleep during the night. Most of the time, you could blame this on the way teenagers' biological clock is set, but there's something more. Kennedy Kelly tells us about the blue light theory.
Late nights, drowsy mornings, and feeling like you haven't slept for days, little you may know, your smartphone may or may not be the cause of your sleep disruptions. Artificial light is one of the biggest causes of sleep deprivation in modern humans, but there's some special witch magic in smartphone and tablet light that really messes with our sleep cycle, essentially forcing us to stay awake by convincing our bodies that it's actually morning.
Well, I've started watching Netflix on my phone at night, so I spend like 45 minutes watching TV, and then I get on Twitter and Instagram and Snapchat and everything, and I check it. So I'm probably on there for at least an hour and a half or 2 hours in the afternoon before I go to sleep.
The use of an electronic device during the day and the hour before bed was associated with the increased risk of taking longer to fall asleep.
Like I said, I've started watching TV shows on my phone. I think that the more I lay there and watch TV, the more that I want to stay awake, but it doesn't do that when I watch it on a TV, just when it's like really up close to my face.
So you might be wondering, what causes this problem? The blue light off your electronic device disrupts the brain's production of melatonin, a hormone that helps regulate the sleep cycle. Our brains are supposed to start producing this hormone when we are ready to sleep, and our smartphones are interfering with the natural process and affecting your body.
This is really scary because right now I just think that I'm just laying in bed watching TV, laying on my phone, when I now know that later on in my life this could lead to problems with my body, and that's really scary to think about.
So, Kennedy, does this mean I can't be on my phone at night?
No, you just need to pick a designated time before bed to put it down so it gives your body enough time to work its natural process so you can fall asleep.
Okay. So, what about you? Are you a sleep-deprived teen?
Yeah, guilty as charged. Race relations in America. There's quite a history there. And just when you think we finally got it right in this country,
something happens to remind us that not everyone has become colorblind.
True. And while our local community here in Murray and Calloway County doesn't historically have any kind of horror stories seen in other places, there was a time when race barriers were very obvious in this town. Today on Laker TV, producers John Gallagher and Josh Connor take a look back in the history of a local high school you may have never heard of.
Segregation, a word that takes us back in time to the early 1960s and to places like Birmingham, Alabama and Little Rock, Arkansas. But rarely does the word take us back here, to our small town of Murray, Kentucky. A majority of people in our area have probably never heard of Douglas High School, a small, all-black school that once stood near present-day Briggs & Stratton in downtown Murray.
Well, we always got things secondhand. We didn't get any new books or stuff like that. We always got hand-me-downs. Even in sports, we didn't know whether we were getting the best books or opportunities as far as study-wise.
During the years Joe Arnold attended Douglas, the civil rights movement began to erupt. Activists like Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. had begun the fight for the equal treatment of all people, and NAACP lawyers were building their case for the famous Brown v. Board of Education trial. In the spring of 1954, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled unanimously that racial segregation in public schools is unconstitutional, after hearing their case. That ruling eventually led to the closure of Murray's Douglas High School in the early 1960s, but by then, Joe Arnold had already graduated. However, as a result of the court's 1954 ruling, Murray State College, known today as Murray State University, had already become an integrated institution before the closing of Douglas High School, and Joe's sister, Geneva Arnold, was one of the 4 African-American students who enrolled at Murray State in the fall of 1955. Giving the Arnold family and other graduates of Douglas High the opportunity to obtain a higher education at a public university.
Wow, interesting story. Good job, Josh Connor.
Well, the search is on for a new superintendent of Calloway County Schools. Coming up, Brian Williams explains the process.
And have you ever thought about being a host family so that a foreign exchange student can come to our school? Well, in just a few moments, we've got a special report about what's involved. Stay with us, we'll be right back.
It's that time of the year again, and Mr. Falwell and his greenhouse classes are growing and selling, you guessed it, plants.
Plant sales take place each spring. My greenhouse class always does those sales, and we sell to people in the community. We're open weekdays 8 to 3.
The profits go back into the horticultural account, and they'll go into helping pay for the process all over again next year.
We've already sold about half of our greenhouse. We've sold out of several different types of tomatoes. We've also sold out of all of our red geraniums, but we still have a lot remaining. We have a good selection of vegetables still and flowers.
Seniors, don't forget to turn in your diploma presentation form to Ms. Spiceland by Thursday, April 23rd at 3 p.m. Also, be on the lookout for other upcoming dates on the senior calendar that was given out in academic prep this week.
You may have noticed some unfamiliar faces in the halls of CCHS at the beginning of semesters. Sometimes they are transfer students, but sometimes they are exchange students. Have you ever wondered how to get involved in a student exchange program or some of the possible benefits of hosting a student? Reporter Kaylee Anderson helps us answer some of your questions.
I understand that you're involved with placing foreign exchange students with host families. Can you explain to me how someone would get involved with that?
Oh, I would be glad to. The company that I work with is called ISE, which stands for International Student Exchange. And I am what they call an area representative. So I look for host families to host these kids from all over the world. And I try to find a family that is willing to host a student for a semester or a school year. And then once we get the student placed with the family, then I also work throughout the process as kind of a liaison, somebody to help supervise the student and help the family if they have any needs while hosting, and also just make sure the student has a great experience while being here in the United States. So really being a host family is super easy. The first process is to contact someone like me who is an area representative, and then I give them the information about how our program works. They fill out an application online, then references are checked. There's a background check because we obviously want these students in good homes with good people. And then we do an orientation with the family. We check out where they live, make sure the student has an appropriate place to live, and we kind of give them all the information they're going to need to host this student, and then we help them find the perfect student. I get profiles all the time from kids from all over, and so we find a student who is going to be a good match for that family. There are some benefits to hosting. You're allowed a $50 a month tax credit when you file your taxes. But the best part is just getting to know these kids, sharing your life, sharing your community, sharing your faith, sharing what makes you a typical American family. You don't have to be a perfect family. You can be crazy, fun, involved in lots of things. You can be the kind who stays home or the kind who goes out. It doesn't matter. These kids want the opportunity to come to the United States to study, to see what American teenage life is really like, and to learn about another culture.
So what are some benefits of hosting a student? What can they learn from that student?
There are so many benefits. You learn so much about your own family and cultures and people from all over the world. One of the best parts of hosting is you break down stereotypes. You learn what it's like to live in another country and experience a different culture. You know, sometimes they'll cook for you, sometimes they'll share things about how they were raised. So the benefits are huge in just understanding the world and understanding that the world is so much bigger than just Western Kentucky.
So I understand that some students and their families might be concerned about the cost it is. Can you just clarify how really simple it is?
It really is very simple because the students are required to bring a minimum of $300 a month to pay for their own expenses. They pay for their school lunches, they pay for their clubs and fees and activities, and if they go to a movie with friends and all that, they pay for that. When we had a student, when we went to Walmart, she even bought her own shampoo and deodorant and toothpaste. The only thing the host family is asked to do is to provide a safe, warm, loving home for that student and be able to eat meals with the family, of course. So there's a little bit of expense in buying a few extra groceries, putting an extra pork chop on the table, but for the most part, it's minimal.
When we say band, most of the time marching band comes to mind, but marching band season only lasts until the end of October. So what do they do for the rest of the year? Martin McCulchick shares the story.
The CCHS Laker Band has been winning competitions and performances for years, but that kind of talent doesn't come easy. Sophomore Gideon Miller, an exceptional musician, all-state player, tells his story of how the band achieves so much.
Well, I practice here at school with the band, and then when I get home, I practice an hour to an hour and a half with my mother, which she is a almost professional horn player. She could be if she wanted to be. And then you get marching season, which you get in school hour practice, and then you get after school practice, which is an extra 2 hours added on to your school practice. And then after that, I also practice at home. So a lot of people do the same thing that I do.
With all this practice, Gideon expects to continue studying and performing music after high school.
I want to go to Murray State for musical education.
If you are interested in seeing the Laker Band perform, they are having a concert at Lubbock Auditorium on May the 26th. For Laker TV, I'm Martin McCulchick.
The search for the Calloway County Superintendent is underway. Recently, the screening committee was selected, including 1 board member, a principal, 2 teachers, a classified employee, and 2 parents. The committee will be responsible for submitting superintendent recommendations to the Board of Education.
And what that recommendation is they'll say, maybe, let's say there's 15 applicants. I don't know how many applicants there are, but let's say there are 15. They may say, we want you to screen these and rank them in order and give us the top 3 that you think are the top 3. And then the Board of Education can look at those top 3 and they can interview them, or they can interview maybe number 4, number 5, or they can just interview 1 or 2. But what the screening committee does is it really just saves the Board of Education a lot of time, and you're getting input from all the different stakeholders: Board of Education, principals, teachers, classified, and parents.
That's all for this week's show, and we hope you have a great weekend.
Oh, before I forget, remember to bring $1 to your 4th block teacher for Callaway Idol next Friday.
So that means Laker TV will not be having a show next Friday due to our Callaway Live crew covering the event.
See you in a couple of weeks, Lakers.